Hey, it's Dave Brown here, host of Now with Dave Brown on AMI. Check out this latest highlight from the show.
The Accessibility Awards were held in Whitby, Ontario recently. The Ability Centre played host to the event. Alex Smyth had a chance to attend the awards and speak with nominees. Alex, how's it going today?
Yeah, it's going well, Dave. I get to highlight great events in the community. What's not to like about that?
What else would you complain about? So how was the event itself?
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. As you mentioned, it was at the Ability Centre in Whitby, Ontario. I've been there a couple of times. I'm always blown away just how great of a facility, how great of a team is there at the Ability Centre. They always know how to put on great events, make sure accessibility is front of mind, front of center. It was a very large event as well. There was like over 150 people there for the event. So that was great to see. And I had a chance to speak with all the different nominees that were up for the awards throughout the evening. So it was a ton of fun, and everyone came away really enjoying themselves.
You'll be rolling out a bunch of those interviews over the course of the next couple of weeks, but who did you want to highlight first?
Yeah, so for today's segment, I kind of wanted to highlight, because as we did these interviews, certain themes started to emerge within the conversation. So today we're talking about sports. So the first person I wanted to highlight is someone very familiar with the show, Luca De Montis with Canadian Blind Hockey. They've been doing so much. We've had them on the show in the past, but they were actually nominated for Accessibility Moment of the Year, and this was all in part from an event they held in Ottawa on the Ottawa Senators' home ice. So that was what we really wanted to kind of dive in and talk about. And he shared what the nomination meant for him and the organization.
I think the recognition means we're on the right track. I think it's definitely some pride, but it lets us know that as we're almost there, we're still not there. So we need to keep kind of working hard, and we kind of need to keep creating these opportunities for children, youth, and adults who are blind and partially sighted to have the opportunity to play the parasport of blind hockey, right? So we're committed to growing not only in this country, but helping grow around the world, right? If it's helping new countries introduce them to the parasport, if they're having questions about programming, or really anything else that entails. But as an organization, we're dedicated to helping to grow this sport as big as we can make it.
Growth is the theme there, Alex. They've been doing the grassroots work for a lot of time and growing the elite programs at the same time as learning to play programs. And they really did start it right from the granular detail. They've been working in this field for over a decade now. So how does Luca feel about support from the hockey community?
Yeah, you know, it's something that they're very fortunate to have. And as you say, Dave, when it comes to that growth, it's something that, you know, both yourself and myself have witnessed, like covering events throughout my time with AMI, and just seeing the growth even within that from these first Triad events. Like I remember they did a Hockey is for Everyone event out in Calgary way back when I was out in Edmonton, to seeing what they've been able to accomplish now and having these showcases and things like that. So Lucas did touch on it and say how much the support from the broader hockey community really attributes to that, and getting the support from places like the NHL, like the different national programs, to really help build and grow the program across the country and internationally. This is what he had to say.
It means so much to us as an organization to know that we could collaborate with these incredible stakeholders and partners, right? For us, I'm a big believer you can't do anything by yourself. And when you're able to get an email from the Ottawa Senators and from the Bell Capital Cup and an incredible individual, Mark Slubin, you answer that right away. That's not one that you put aside. You answer that right away. And how can we work together? How can we help amplify the voice of these participants, right? How can we create awareness and show the world that despite a visual impairment, you could play this game just as well, if not better, than some other players?
The example of the Ottawa Senators and the Bell Capital Cup stepping in to be a part of this event they hosted that ended up being part of the accessibility moment of the year, speaks to something that Canada Blind Hockey has been working towards, which is the NHL and NHL markets in Canada beginning to actively more partner up with them and platform with them, heading into the national championships or the national tournament this year. The Professional Women's Hockey League was partnering with them. Yeah. But that was something that in the United States, a lot of NHL teams became early supporters of the American blind hockey program. And I don't mean to simply say that credibility comes from the top like that, but it did help in the United States to get that program off the ground in conjunction with USA Hockey. So it's really cool to see some of that making its way into Canada as the sport continues to grow and thrive in Canada. But you know, the United States side of things, there's still that rivalry in place, and they just had that great rivalry series a few weekends ago. What are his thoughts on the rivalry with the U.S. south of the border?
Well, I couldn't let him go without talking about it, right, Dave? You know, we got to have a bit of fun. And you're right, especially in para hockey. And this was one thing I wanted to kind of touch on with him is the fact that when it comes to para ice hockey, the U.S. kind of has had Canada's number the last few years. And part of that is that infrastructure that has been built around the program. It's a bit different with the blind hockey kind of side of things, where Canada has been, you know, having the USA's numbers. They won 5 of these gold championships and these tournaments and summit series. So obviously, Luca had a bit of fun when I brought it up to him.
It feels amazing. I think it's something to be said that when you're competing for your country, and it's such a soft spot, to be real with you, that a lot of these individuals that represent our nation in blind hockey never thought they'd have the opportunity to ever wear their country's jersey on an international stage. Many of them, matter of fact, all of them grew up with those dreams of watching the World Juniors and watching the Olympics and the World Championships and seeing some of their idols maybe score a famous goal. If you're talking about the golden goal with Sidney Crosby. But we've got our own heroes now that are scoring golden goals. And I think it's so important not only for us and our group, but it's important for the next wave of national team players, right? The 11-year-old that's watching from Vancouver or a 9-year-old that's watching from Newfoundland knows that they've got the opportunity to one day wear their country's jersey. So you are right, there is a rivalry on the ice, but it's amazing when you're standing on the blue line. And I could say it with pride, after doing it 5 times now, there's nothing that beats hearing your national anthem with a gold medal around your neck.
Alex, it wasn't just ice hockey that had your attention. You were covering a bunch of ice sports and folks that you were talking to that night in Whitby. You had a chance to talk to Dennis Ong from the Whitby Ringette Association. They were nominated for their work in building a more inclusive environment for players. What are they doing?
Yeah, so they really wanted to create a space in a sport that was available for all participants, regardless of ability or age or skill level. And that was really at the heart of why they were nominated. They built such a welcoming environment. They wanted players to feel like you're still part of the team. They wanted teammates, both those able-bodied and those who are living with a disability, to feel like it's not any different. You're just teammates. You're playing the game together. You're working towards the same goals, and same thing with the coaching as well. So I wanted to ask him about his thoughts on how the power of sport really is that vehicle to drive kind of accessibility and inclusion and play experiences for kids.
Well, I mean, sport brings out the fun in all of us, right? You know, it's a game. Of course, winning is important, but winning's not everything. You bring in community, you bring in friendship. There are ways that children can identify and connect with each other in a game where, you know, differences between them, age and size and, you know, likes or otherwise disappear because you're all united together in a game. So we really find that sport is something that is critical to creating a community, because only in the world of sport do you see absolutely everybody in the community all on the same field or the same ice rink.
Alex, you and I have talked before about how elite athleticism is not so much in the cards for us. But irrespective, when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time hanging around the rink. I liked skating, I liked playing on a team, I liked being around people, I liked the community that it built. And that's really what Dennis is driving at there. If you can build an organization where disability or any other kind of difference can be mitigated with adaptations or creating a culture, you are going to benefit all of these kids in the long run.
Absolutely, and it's just all about having a space where, hey, if you want to play, if you want to get involved, you can. Like, you don't have to second guess or feel like, oh, I need to kind of really force my way into this program, or I need to seek all these accommodations to be able to play. It's like, no, they'll work around me, and this is part of where they're building and what they're really trying to grow within the Whitby Ringette Association, and even broader, is they're putting a real emphasis on the coaching, on the leadership side of things, to make sure, hey, we have this knowledge space. How do we kind of build a inclusive space? How do we kind of reach out and bring in kids who have disabilities or have different needs, to make sure their needs are met and they feel like they can be included in the sport that everyone wants to be a part of. And Dennis expands on this.
The hope is that with the program that we're engaging in at Whitby Ringette, is that children with special needs are fully integrated into recreational and competitive programs and on the same ice, and that it becomes completely normal for coaches of all kinds and ages to be trained in how to deal with children with all kinds of disabilities, that it doesn't become a barrier for any child to step onto the ice, and also that the teammates and the children in the community find it completely normal that a child with special needs is your teammate and your friend.
Maybe the word of the day today, Alex, is onus. It changes the onus. Instead of the parent or the child having to advocate to say, I need this, I need that, there becomes an institutional structural knowledge and understanding. Here's the accommodations that we have on file. Please come and tell us more of what you need. But the onus is not strictly on an individual to figure out accommodations.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's one of those things that I've grown up with my, very limited but still sport journey that I had in playing recreational sports, like having hearing aids. And when you're getting hot and sweaty and running around, you short them out, so you take them out half the time. So having to educate the coaches and the teammates, like, how do I need to communicate when I want to play? You take it off of the individual, you put it on that organization, as you say. The onus goes on to the coaching, making sure they have the knowledge base, making sure they have the understanding, how can I make this the best possible experience for the child, and not having to force the family to kind of really involve every single aspect of the play and kind of educate everyone else that there is that knowledge base. Because once that happens, that is just such a sense of relief for the parents and the families, that they just don't have to worry about their child for the time that they're on the ice. It's like, okay, there's a familiarity, there's an understanding there. Okay, I can catch my breath at least for a little bit while my kid goes and plays and is carefree.
Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI TV, or download the podcasts wherever you listen.